Welcome to Iraqi Dinar Update, your go-to source for the latest news, expert insights, and real-time developments on Iraq's currency, economy, and financial reforms. Whether you're a long-time investor or just curious about the dinar, you're in the right place. In recent years, as global economic conditions have grown increasingly complex and uncertain, countries around the world have been compelled to adopt more flexible and adaptive monetary frameworks. Among these nations, Vietnam has emerged as a particularly instructive case in the realm of currency management, thanks to the proactive measures undertaken by the State Bank of Vietnam, SBV, which serves as the country's central bank. Confronted with growing external pressures, including rising interest rates in the United States, volatility in global commodity prices, and fluctuations in capital flows, Vietnam has chosen to adopt a set of monetary tools designed not only to preserve macroeconomic stability but also to shield its currency, the Vietnamese dong, VND, from excessive volatility. The transition from a rigid, fixed exchange rate regime to a more flexible, managed float system marks a significant evolution in the country's monetary policy, and it offers lessons that could be applicable to other emerging economies facing similar pressures, including Iraq. The SBV's decision to intervene in the foreign exchange market is central to its broader monetary policy agenda. These interventions typically take the form of selling foreign currencies, primarily US dollars, from the country's reserves in order to stabilize the dong when it experiences downward pressure. By doing so, the SBV helps prevent a disorderly depreciation of the currency, which could otherwise trigger inflationary spirals, erode consumer purchasing power, and undermine investor confidence. These operations are not carried out arbitrarily. Rather, they are part of a carefully calibrated strategy to manage liquidity in the banking system, control inflation, and maintain a stable macroeconomic environment. For a developing economy like Vietnam, which is heavily reliant on exports and foreign investment, ensuring a stable currency is paramount to fostering long-term growth and protecting domestic livelihoods. Another important aspect of Vietnam's monetary strategy involves the careful calibration of interest rates to manage capital flows. In a world where money moves quickly across borders in search of higher returns, central banks must be vigilant in setting policy rates that are competitive yet sustainable. Vietnam has managed this balance by adjusting its benchmark interest rates in response to both domestic inflationary trends and international monetary developments. For example, when the U.S. Federal Reserve raises rates, there is a risk that capital will flow out of Vietnam in search of higher yields, thereby putting downward pressure on the dong. In such cases, the SBV may choose to tighten its own monetary policy to retain investor interest and support the currency, even if domestic conditions might otherwise warrant a looser stance. This delicate balancing act underscores the complexity of operating a flexible exchange rate system in an interconnected global economy. The evolution of Vietnam's monetary policy has not occurred in a vacuum. It is part of a broader effort to modernize the country's financial system, integrate more deeply into global markets, and prepare for eventual accession to institutions such as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. As Vietnam aspires to become a high-income country, it recognizes the importance of aligning its monetary and fiscal policies with international best practices. This includes not only adopting more flexible exchange rate regimes, but also improving transparency, strengthening banking supervision, and deepening domestic capital markets. In this context, the SBV's actions are best understood not as isolated interventions, but as integral components of a comprehensive economic reform agenda. Of course, for Iraq to undertake such a transition, it would need to undertake substantial preparatory work. This would include bolstering the institutional capacity of the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, developing robust forecasting and modeling tools, and establishing a credible monetary policy framework anchored in price stability and economic fundamentals. Transparency and communication would also be key. Market participants must have confidence that the central bank's actions are guided by clear rules and sound judgment. In addition, Iraq would need to strengthen its banking sector, enhance financial inclusion, and build up its foreign exchange reserves to provide a buffer against potential market disruptions. The experiences of countries like Vietnam can serve as both a roadmap and a source of inspiration. Vietnam has shown that it is possible to maintain macroeconomic stability, attract foreign investment, and support economic growth even in the face of external pressures, provided that the right policy tools are deployed in a timely and coordinated manner. Iraq, with its vast natural resource wealth and young, dynamic population, has the potential to achieve similar outcomes if it embraces monetary reform with the same degree of commitment and strategic foresight. The adoption of a flexible exchange rate would not solve all of Iraq's problems overnight, but it would mark a significant step toward greater economic sovereignty and long-term prosperity. There is also a symbolic dimension to this issue. A floating dinar would signal to the world that Iraq is ready to rejoin the international financial community on equal footing, no longer tethered to outdated models of currency control. It would demonstrate that Iraq has the institutional maturity and economic confidence to allow market forces to play a greater role in determining the value of its currency. This shift would not only enhance Iraq's credibility with investors and trading partners, but also align the country more closely with global norms and standards. In conclusion, the monetary reforms undertaken by the State Bank of Vietnam offer valuable insights for countries like Iraq that are grappling with the challenges of exchange rate management. By adopting a flexible monetary policy, intervening judiciously in the foreign exchange market, and allowing the national currency to fluctuate within a controlled range, Vietnam has successfully maintained economic stability and positioned itself for future growth. These policies, while demanding in terms of technical expertise and institutional discipline, have proven effective in navigating a volatile global economic environment. As Iraq contemplates its own monetary future, it would do well to study the Vietnamese example carefully and consider the potential benefits of moving toward a more flexible exchange rate system. The hope, shared by many observers and stakeholders, is that the Iraqi dinar will eventually join the ranks of currencies that float, guided not by rigid pegs but by economic fundamentals, sound governance, and the aspirations of a nation ready to chart its own course. Thanks for tuning into Iraqi Dinar Update. If you found this content helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a beat on Iraq's evolving financial landscape. Stay informed and stay ready.